Oh, that's scary.
You're gonna run into
Welcome to the Sasquatch Outpost podcast. I'm your host, Jim Myers, and we are in episode 69. This is a pre-recorded episode, which isn't my preference, but my schedule dictates it occasionally, but it helps when I have an awesome guest like I have today. So when this plays, I will be out camping. Let me just show you where I'm going to be. This is in the Buffalo Peaks Wilderness. I've got some clients coming in. This was a previous camping trip, and you can see it's a horrible place to camp. it's gorgeous. Look at this. I mean, this is all. If this campsite's available, this is where I would go. You wake up with the sun shining on these peaks across the valley, but yeah, just absolutely gorgeous. But I never know. I try to camp during the week in the summer because there's so many people on the weekends out camping. Thankfully, they've raised the fire ban. They had one on. It's just different when you're camping without a campfire. I don't know about you guys, but I much prefer camping when you've got a campfire and you can grill your steaks over that instead of having to do them in a pan over a propane fire. So much prefer that. The quick note to our chat room. Several of you have alluded to having had encounters, and some of you have never had the chance to interview on the show. Ethan, James, Renee, Drew, Jeff, Perea. Those are three names that Steph and I came up with real quick. If you guys would give, guys or gals, Renee, I'm not sure if it's a guy or a gal, I apologize. But if you would, let me just get this banner up here and show you. You can write Stephanie. Let's see. You can email Stephanie here at thesasquatchoutpost@gmail.com. If you've had an encounter and you'd be willing to be on the show. I'm booking out for the next month or two and would love to get some of you on, especially if you're regulars. You've got stories I'm sure the others would love to hear. So that's how you can get in touch with Stephanie and give her your stories, and we'll get you on the show. There's just for your interest's sake, and I don't know where this is going to land. We've been talking, Jill and I have been talking with some TV scouts about a possible reality show. They're working on selling it. You know, you can have a great idea for a show, but if no network buys it, then you've got nothing. So they're trying to sell it to a few of the big networks. I won't say which at this point, and it may come to nothing, but we're hoping that this will result in a fun reality show that Jill and I would do, and it's stuff we're already doing, and that's what interested them in creating this show, is that they don't have to create something and hope it works. We're already doing it, so they wanted to see if they could sell the idea and pitch it to a few networks, and we'll see what happens. But that's always a fun thing to be involved in. And I think those are the only announcements I had. So I'm going to play this quick disclaimer that we always have to play and bring David in. Welcome, Dave Bakara.
Jim, how are you today, bud?
I am doing awesome.
Good.
And I was just looking. I was stalking you online on Google, and I found an interview that you did sometime back. And I'm just going to read this paragraph. You can tell me how much of this applies to you or still or not. But it says, I was raised in Florida in the late 60s and 70s. When I was growing up, there were stories of the Florida skunk ape, also known as Bigfoot, on the evening news in newspapers. I saw them interview a police officer that saw it. It was in the 90s and 2000s when that took a hard turn. People stopped talking about it because they were afraid to be ridiculed, which you and I can both understand. You just don't go to a party and start telling people you believe in Bigfoot. Forget it. Right. When I decided to open this museum, I didn't tell anybody. I just told them I was going to open a gift shop. They're like, oh, great. What kind? And you said, you'll find out. Hopefully that has changed for you now with Expedition Bigfoot in Cherry Log, Georgia. You guys have been in business, I think, 12 years. Is that right?
I think it's going. I've been living up here for 12, but the museum has been open for going on 9 years now.
Oh, nine.
Yeah.
I thought you opened before me. We opened in 13. And I thought that you guys had opened before us, because when I went down to see you that time, I thought we were just opening. But anyway, 9, 10, somewhere around there. We've been open 10. And I've, this is people ask me now, and you've probably, when you're on a plane or you're out and you meet people and they say, so what do you do? What do you say?
Oh man, what a great question. I'll be at the barber shop, and I just had to get a new barber, as a matter of fact, because mine retired. There's people in the room. She goes, so what do you do? And I was like, oh. So I get myself in that position all the time. And
I know.
I'm kind of gauging. Now I'm kind of gauging. I was just at the doctor doing blood tests yesterday. And a guy, he saw my truck out front. He says, oh, you own the Bigfoot Museum? And I was like, uh-oh. And there's people in the waiting room, right? So it's not like we can have a private conversation.
Sure.
So it's almost the point now where if I'm at a public place and I have my shirt on or my truck out front, I'm already gauging the people in the room up with as to what I'm going to say.
And this is in your area, so obviously they would know what the truck's related to the museum. And
right. And God, it's different every time. Sometimes if the person asks me and it's in a joking way, I'll say something cute and funny, and then they know it's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
There's ways to do that.
There's ways to cut it off. Yeah.
Right. And
politely, but
exactly politely, but he knows I don't want to talk to this guy anymore, and that's good for me. So yeah, it's a case by case basis, but usually
me too.
When I tell them who I am and what I do, most of the time they have something to tell me, and I was that's why I keep my stuff on my truck, and I don't hide it, because I get some amazing stories just wandering around out in public.
Yeah, I can't take the stuff off my truck. It's decals that are permanently on there,
Right.
but every once in a while, it doesn't happen as often as I kind of had hoped, because I was wanting to um, make it a rolling advertisement that people would call the number on there, but people will come up to me in a parking lot occasionally and say, I've seen one, or they'll say, what's the Sasquatch Outpost? And that leads to a brief conversation.
Right.
And someone told me recently, yeah, we saw your truck crossing the Hoover Dam, and we had to look it up and find out. And I thought, I've never crossed the Hoover Dam. I don't know. I don't know what they saw or when they saw it, but it was not me. Where's the Hoover Dam? Is it in California? No, I can't remember where it is. We drove across from here to California, and it's possible someone saw us driving wherever the Hoover Dam is. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
They were on their way to the Hoover Dam, maybe. But hey, I want to show you something. See what you think. So I put this in the intro, but this happened yesterday at the store. So to set the scene, the store is downstairs. Upstairs, the store and museum are downstairs. Upstairs is a big empty floor that I'm working on the escape room that we're building, and so nobody's up there. I'm the only one that ever goes up there to work, and I was not there yesterday. So this happened, and I'll just let you watch, see what you think. I'm going to fast forward just a hair here. So some people come in.
Well, I have to warn everybody to watch your foreheads.
That's my daughter there, by the way, in the blue dress.
Okay. But otherwise, let me know if you have any questions. And we do have a museum through the Green Gate. That's $8 for adults. Okay. Green. Come here. Come here. This is gonna make for the greatest story when we get to the building a little bit.
Okay, I thought it was right about now.
That was pretty loud.
Yeah, very loud.
No, we've got an upstairs.
In fact, the woman looked outside to see if a car had hit our building.
I know this place is haunted, but Bigfoot's here.
Yeah. So let me go back and play it one more time. Watch my daughter jump. I mean, she. Oh, just a second. A little farther back here. So
Wow.
she went up, and
Oh, that's scary.
they thought I was upstairs working, maybe, but I wasn't. And so she went upstairs, and I had been sweeping the floor because we had an event called Bailey Days. It's our annual festival, and me and another guy did security both nights of the festival, and we slept in my store because it's right on Main Street. But we ended up sleeping downstairs. But I had swept the whole upstairs; it was empty, and there was a hammer right in the middle of the floor when she went up there, and so she thought that's a weird place for a hammer, and then went back downstairs, and then she went back up and she threw the hammer on the floor, and it made the same sound, and so. I know that we've got spirits in this store, and it's just they've never been that blatant in the middle of the day, and it was like this hammer was tossed across the floor. So
That's what it sounds to me like. It's something was thrown and then what across the floor too.
Bang, 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 and so who knows? I mean, it was loud though. It scared everybody. It scared the guests. It scared everybody in the store. So
Wow.
Yeah, I have no idea, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if what could it be? The windows were all closed. It was a very windy day. windows were all closed. Nobody's upstairs. It has to be paranormal,
How old was the building you're in?
1878. So
Wow.
145, somewhere around there. First commercial building built in Bailey. And they talk about water being an important thing for paranormal. There's a natural spring behind the store. They built a cistern, bricked it. It's round. It's underneath what was their root cellar, which is still there. And then they had another cistern inside what's inside the store now. It's about 12 feet deep, maybe 4 feet in diameter. There's water in there as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, who knows? But just interesting and a little funny video, and scared everybody to death. So, yeah, I'm just going to chalk that one up to weirdness at the Sasquatch Outpost.
Yeah.
But, so give us a quick update on your search for a location for your new museum.
Well, it's funny. I just emailed a guy today about an available building in Helen, Georgia.
Okay.
It's about 45 minutes from us. It's the third most visited small town in Georgia.
Yeah, I've been to Helen. It's a beautiful little town.
Yeah, cute little place. And we actually been looking over there because there's, other than tubing, and they have a mountain coaster. They're trying to build up, but there's so many people there. There's just not enough things for them to do.
Okay.
Let's face it, you and I can only hit so many T-shirt shops and eat so much fudge. If you're there for more than a day, you got to have something to do. So
absolutely.
I'm hoping that something turns out in Helen. That's what I'd like to find.
They have space big enough to house what you're wanting to do?
No, but I'm going to have to make do. Yeah, so
are you talking with the town council or?
I've been there, and the town. It's funny too. It's the same thing in Blue Ridge. The town council and the merchants. You think they would all? Along. Yeah, they're.
Wow.
It's like a political thing. I don't know. The merchants are always blaming the town for everything, and the town's always blaming the merchants. So, do you think? Well, I'll go to City Hall, which I've done, to get some information. Yeah. They're not very forthgiving. It's like they're the enemy almost, which is really weird.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the board of our Chamber of Commerce here. We're not incorporated, so we don't have a city council. But yeah, we get into it sometimes with the businesses because they want us to do more than we're doing, and you can only do so much. But well, I hope you find a place. I know you guys have been looking. You've got a bunch of displays to put in there ready to go. And I can't wait to go visit whenever you find your spot.
So, it'll be fun.
Yeah. And maybe if you need some help, I'll do a field trip over there and give you a hand.
Sounds good to me. I can always use some man hands. Let me tell you something.
There you go. Well, it would be payback, David, for all the help you gave me. So
no worries.
Hey, tell me something real quick, and I want to get into some Bigfoot stories here, but where's Blood Mountain, Georgia?
Blood Mountain is it's maybe about a 40-minute drive from here. It's north of Blairsville. I've been there twice. My wife and I've hiked it a couple times. Okay. Only once have I made it to the top. And I actually put.
Is it pretty high?
It's Blood Mountain's pretty high. I think we're only like the highest point in Georgia is only like 5,200 feet. And I think that's, I'm not sure if that's Bell Mountain or if that's going to be over in that direction. But yeah, it's switchback all the way to the top. And once you get to the top, there's a lot of rocky area up there. And I've been up there. I've had listening cameras up there, long-term, not cameras. I'm sorry, recorders twice.
Recorders. Did you get anything?
Well, I didn't get anything. Well, other than normal animal sounds and people talking. But it was such a hike to get up there and get them. I said, I'm not putting these things up here. I'm gonna have a heart attack.
I know.
Get these damn recorders. I didn't lose any. I hit them good behind a pine tree. I hang them and kind of what do you call it? To camouflage them and whatnot. But yeah, both times.
Why did you put them at the top? Was there nowhere along the way that was a better location?
I know. I just kind of figured with all the rocks and the echoing up there, and there's valleys all the way around me. If I caught something, I might catch it up there.
Okay.
And I'm far enough away from the road not to catch any road noise. And I thought maybe I could also catch something up there as well. There's been sightings up there on that in that area as well. So Blood Mountain it's a buster getting out. Once you get to the top, you're so out of breath, like you just want to rest and then come back down again, right?
Well, the reason I asked, my wife and I were just watching a true crime special thing about a serial killer that killed a gal on that mountain, and she was walking her dog up and on her way back, and he stopped her because he had a dog. He had his own ploys, but he had killed people in a number of states. But I was just curious because they said Blood Mountain. I thought, I've lived in Georgia. I never even heard of Blood Mountain. Didn't know where it was. So
there was a big Indian massacre up there. That's how it got its name.
Really?
Indians fighting other Cherokee and another nation warred up there for many years, and a lot of warriors lost their life up there, and that's why they call it Blood Mountain. A lot of people don't realize how brutal Indians were to other Indians.
Yeah.
And some of those Indian wars, what they did to each other, which is of course no better than what we done in world wars as well. They were brutal to each other. Yeah.
Well, it's like slavery in Africa. There was slavery between tribes long before the whites went over there and from Europe and the U.S. and brought Africans back. They were enslaving each other. Doesn't justify anything that we did, but as whites. But that's men are very adept at hurting and abusing each other and killing each other.
It's the truth.
Yeah. Well, I know there's some Georgia comes up often. And when I watch podcasts and other shows, Georgia is often in the news related to Bigfoot. There's a lot of Bigfoot stories that come off Georgia, and because of where you are and what you've done there with Expedition Bigfoot, like us, I'm sure you get told stories all the time. And so, do you have a way to record the stories people tell you?
You know, I thought when we first opened the museum, I'll get a camera and keep it up by the front. And a video camera, it just seems easier instead of me having to remember everything. I'll just say, hey, hold on a second, let me get my camera and I'll turn it on. It didn't take very long to figure out that plan wasn't going to work. Because
I've tried that too.
You think, I mean, your common sense says, well, I'll just get it, but you don't understand it. As soon as you bring out a camera, they stop. That's not what they want. And then you've got to adapt to getting the story from them the way they want to tell you the story.
Exactly.
They're the boss, really. And if you want the whole story, you have to make sure that they're very comfortable and they're not feeling threatened. So I'm even remiss to grab a pen. Hey, honey, can you grab me a pen? This guy's going to tell me a story. You don't even want to do that.
No.
Because so you have to like sharpen your memory skill. That's something that I've realized. He's just rapping at you and you're just like, oh, no kidding. So what year was this? And you're taking mental notes. That's really the only way you're going to get the good stuff. Because
100% agree.
Yeah.
And I'll call people who've left their number for me to call them. And I'll say, hey, I'm real slow at writing and typing. Could I record this call? That doesn't need Don't want you to record it. Just want to tell my story.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah,
it is. It is. Because we'll even ask them. I've got little forms for people to fill out. And one of the questions is, would you be willing to be a guest on the podcast? Yes. But don't record me on the phone. Don't record me when I'm telling my story in front of you. I just want to tell my story. And so maybe it's the nature of what they're talking about, I guess. But
I've had a couple TV shows. I've fed some names to some TV shows, but I checked it with them first to make sure it was okay. Honestly, Jim, 99% of the good witnesses I get, when you ask me if they want to be on a TV show, they either don't answer you back most of the time, or they go, I don't think so. So you can't believe how many good stories never make it into the public because the more
Tons.
frightening and more revealing that these stories are, the less chance they want to talk about it.
And that's the majority of people, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Majority of witnesses. So that's why no matter whose database you're looking at, BFRO, whoever, it's a fraction of the number of people who've actually had an encounter.
Right.
I think, what do you think about this statement? I believe more people in this country have seen a Bigfoot than have seen a mountain lion in the wild.
I absolutely agree.
And yet there's hundreds of thousands of mountain lions. You just never see them. You don't see them. And so I'm sure they're in North Georgia. They've got to be mountain lions up there. I don't know how many you would have, but you got a lot of Bigfoots. So what are some great stories that you can tell us from the years you've been hearing them? So
my mental, there's so many. I'm like you. There's so many stored up here because I'm not allowed to write them down. Some of them I have put on our Facebook page. Some of the cooler ones I put on our Facebook page. But when they start coming out, there's so many that I can only hit the top stranger ones because we can only do so many road crossings. But some of them, like I talked to a guy just because of a road crossing. Some of them are really interesting. I talked to a lady. One of the first ones I did in Florida was before I moved to Georgia. She was driving up I-75 and she was going to take a nursing test. And of all days, it was a Sunday morning, which is a kind of strange time to go to take a test. But I think she was going to a hospital to take a test. And she was a nurse. It was a written exam is what it was. And she's driving down the highway. And she says, at the time, my old car did not have air conditioning. This would have been back in the mid 90s. Okay. So there weren't that many people on the highway. As I'm driving, I see this person walking along the side of the road. And I thought, that's weird. And then it appeared that he was wearing a fur coat. She goes, why would somebody be wearing a fur coat in Florida? It was the summer. And she says, I had my windows not all the way down, but I had them down pretty far so I could get the air in because my air conditioner wasn't working. She says, I slow up as I get next to this person who's walking away from me. All I see is their back. And then I realized this is a really big person. As I approach this guy and I'm looking out my window, the smell gets into the car. And she says, it was immediately my car stunk. It was like almost made me want to vomit when I was smelling. She says, as I got next to it, it turned and it started walking into the woods. And she says, I was going slow. There was nobody behind me. I was going slow enough where I could watch this thing. And she goes, the strangest thing was this. She said it walked into the woods and there's all these alders and everything in front of it, all these little trees and scrub brush. She goes, it never put its hands out to part its way into the woods. She says it walked in, it went in like 2 feet and vanished. Wow. And this was just a witness who was had no interest in this whatsoever. And it was weird. She says, the first thing I noticed is it didn't put its hands out. Like we would walk in, we would like start.
Yeah, we would do this. Yeah. None
of that. And she goes, it took like as I watched, it took one step into the woods. And the next one, it was gone. There was nothing moving. It was just vanished. And that was one of the first ones I was like, Oh, well, I'll take a mental note of that. I'm pretty sure that it's on the BFRO website that happened near Tampa, Hillsborough County. So that's some of the more neat.
But they wouldn't show that normally they wouldn't show that.
I doubt that part was probably edited out. And then I talked to a neat guy a couple of years ago in Somerville, Georgia, where I've had people that actually come from the museum from Somerville and tell me their stories. And they're just like, these things live right on the edge. We can hear them screaming down from the mountain. It's near Somerville, it's near Tryon, Georgia. There's been so many amazing encounters up there. And he said he was an ex-military guy, and he lived not too far from his parents' house, and they were elderly. And he was going to check their house because they were gone for like a week or something, visiting friends. And they asked him to go by and check the house. So he's leaving his house. He's headed to their house in a rainstorm. And he's driving a truck, and his windshield wipers are going shh, 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 shh. And as he gets closer to their house, he's not far from his house. He sees what he thinks is either a deer or a bear down in the ditch. He takes a mental note, and he takes his foot off the gas. And you learn to do that up here, I'm sure. There, when you see an animal, you're like, oh, this it's going to end up in front of your car. You're going to spook it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you lay off the gas, and he said this thing stood up, and it said it stepped out onto the road, and immediately I could tell this thing was massive. And he says, when I tell you it was big, I don't mean it was like big like a bodybuilder. He said this thing was so big, it took 2 steps in the rain. And he said I couldn't get a perfectly good view of it. I could see it, but I couldn't tell you all the little details because the windshield wipers would go, and then it would go again in the rain. But he said it was so big. He said I was in fear for my life. And he says he was in a Desert Storm, I think.
Wow.
Real tough military guy. He said, I thought it'd be kind of neat to see one at some point, but now that I've seen one, he says, if I see it again, I'm going to shoot it and kill it. I said, why would you say that? He says, because what I saw doesn't belong here.
Oh, interesting.
I thought, what a neat way to, what I saw does not belong here. And I think you and I know exactly what he meant, the feeling he got when he saw that, because he saw something that there's no room for it in our understanding.
Right.
Live. Right.
Yet if he pulls out a gun and starts shooting, all bets are off as to what's going to happen, because that thing, you'd have to empty your gun, and even then I'm not sure you would take it down, because
and I know that too, and I'm sure when I was in the doctor's yesterday, the guy that was asking me said, well, I bet a 50 caliber would take it down. And then he corrected himself pretty quickly. Like, who's going to go hiking and carry a 50 caliber?
Exactly.
and I don't want to get into it with these guys in public, but
sure,
you and I both know these things don't travel alone. Most of the time, there's another one around. And man, look, most of the people that have lived after Bigfoot sighting didn't have a gun. They didn't point a gun at it, and they lived to talk another day. How many hunters go missing that we never hear about? Maybe drew on it, and that was all it took. They didn't have to pull the trigger. So, and I'm going to tell these guys just be careful when you talk like that, because you can just go missing.
People can go missing, and while I don't think Sasquatch is responsible for all of missing 411's cases, they could be for some of them. And you know that you remember that thing they had in Oklahoma where they had an open season on Bigfoot and a reward for the person. First they said kill it, then I think they said capture it and contain it. But for those who want to kill one, to me, I just wrote an article about this recently. To me, it would be murder, because they're people.
Right.
And it'd be like me shooting you, even though people don't think that. They don't think that they're people. Once they brought one down, if they ever could bring one down and actually really start to look at it, they'd realize, oh my God, this isn't a gorilla. Right. This is a giant hairy person. And then the regrets would come, but it's only going to happen after they shoot them, unfortunately. Right. And so, it's just, people had this idea, this is a giant animal. I need to shoot it. I'm going to make $1 million if I do. And it's not going to go the way they hope, I think, if that were to ever happen.
Yep.
The first story you told about walking into the woods, we had a story. My research partner, we had been gifting in this one area for about 2 years, and I think they watched us for 2 years, and they interacted with us, but they never showed themselves. Mm-hmm. They would throw stuff at us from in the woods behind us, but you could never find them. You turn around and there was nothing there. And they would throw it over our heads and hit the same tree 4 times in a row through all the other trees. I mean, thick forest, miss everything except the tree they're aiming at, and you couldn't see them. I mean, they couldn't have been more than 30 yards behind us or whatever. But he was hiking through the woods, heard a dog bark. We had 2 gifting sites at the time, heard a dog bark, thought that's weird. I don't see any dogs. And then he got to the trail and kept going to the second site. And the same dog, quote, barked behind him. He turned around and it was, he said, his first description was a big burned tree stump in the middle of the trail where there wasn't one. And he looked at that and he thought, that's weird. I don't remember a tree stump. And just as he had that thought, it turned, it glided into the woods, it got into the trees, and it was gone. And so we reenacted it. I went down there. I played the part of the Bigfoot. He went up to where he was on the trail, 60 some yards away. He goes, okay, go into the woods. So I turn and I go in the woods. He goes, no, go faster. Go faster. And he said, you're not going fast enough. But he said, the weird thing is when you walk, you're doing this. When it went, it just kind of went like this, just glided. And then he said, I can watch you through the trees for another 20 yards. He said, that thing got into the woods and it was gone. Same thing exactly. So what happens? What do you think happens at that point?
Ooh. I think we both have a pretty good idea that they're that gliding, that's so important. That word, gliding. How many times does it come up? Gliding motion. And sometimes it's disguised as it moved like a person on skis, or it moved like a cross-country skier.
Yeah,
exactly. So they're talking about the same thing. And whatever this kind of locomotion is, it's not what Patty was doing.
No.
I've never looked at Patty and thought that's a weird walk. It's just, to me,
it's a walk.
It's a walk.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody could look at that and know, and now go, God, I had a really weird. I've talked to some people that said it walked really weird. And I associate some of those with that gliding motion. And then, of course, I talked to the guy over by Amicalola that saw it come across his yard, and it wasn't even touching the ground in broad daylight. Came right through, down the hill and across. It was about 6 inches up off the ground. Was
it doing this with his legs?
God, you know what? I remember talking to him. I can't remember if he said it was moving, but he did say it wasn't bobbing.
It was moving, but
it was moving.
It wasn't walking, so to speak.
It wasn't walking, right?
Wow.
And then I talked to the guy, the guy who shot one Thanksgiving Day. He had just gotten back from Afghanistan. He's back maybe a few months. He was hunting on Thanksgiving Day, maybe an hour and a half drive from where I live. And he came around the corner and was standing right in the middle of the trail at an intersection of trails. And he said, I raised my weapon immediately. And he said, I had the crosshairs right on its head. And he said it wasn't, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 feet from him. It was close. And he said, he just stood there looking completely blank. And he said, at the last minute, I moved the rifle over and I shot right over its shoulder. I didn't hit it. And he said it turned and it ran into the woods right there. And I was there the next day. The next day he took me to it. And we're both looking in the woods, and he said it ran right there. And him and I are looking, and there isn't a branch broken, man. There is nothing disturbed. If something that big can scream through the woods, why isn't everything all busted and broken?
You would think it would look like a bobcat went through there, just knocked it. I mean, a machine bobcat, not the animal.
Right. No disturbance, nothing. And that's one of those. That's when I was like, I guess this was about 5 years ago. I guess I was like, wow, that's really weird. And the guy standing took his time to meet me there. Ex-military. Liars don't show up.
No.
Liars and deceivers, they don't show up to the spot on their own time to meet me. And I'm looking, man. Whenever I have a witness talking to me, especially with a cool story, I'm looking for I'm not looking because I want to believe. I'm looking for a reason why this guy's got to be lying to me, and I couldn't find any reason.
Can you imagine Dave standing there at 50 feet, and having a guy fire a rifle right past your head? I mean, the sound, the muzzle flash, God, that would just about drop you just from the, I just can't even imagine that. No wonder it ran, but they must know what guns are, don't you think?
I think so. And I remember when I was at the Ohio Bigfoot conference, maybe 6 years ago, there was a veteran in there. He also had returned from Afghanistan. And I overheard him talking to somebody. So I asked him, I told him who it was. And I said, tell me your story. And here was another strange aspect. He said, I wasn't far back. As a matter of fact, I think he might have been suffering a little PTSD at the time. If he wasn't, he certainly was after his encounter. And he said he was hunting with some friends. And I think he was in Louisiana or Mississippi. And I think Sibilla interviewed this guy eventually.
Okay.
Anyway, so he can hear something. It's nighttime, and the moon is up, and he can see in the water, and they hear something in the water. And then as they're looking, they can see this huge person, completely illuminated by the moon in the water. And I think he said, if I remember correctly, I pulled my gun up, and I had my gun on it. He said, this thing came out of the water and charged us. He wasn't by himself. And he said, the weird thing was, he said, you know how we walk in the water and you know how it slows us down? And he said, this didn't slow this thing down. He said, this thing came out of the water. I believe it was chest. He was either waist or chest deep. So it was deep enough in the water. Whereas he started moving through the water, it was like the water was exploding. And this thing was so powerful that the water, he said, it moved way faster than it should have to get out towards us. And we had turned and ran, but we saw the way this thing came out of the water, and it was terrifying. So it's almost like either it's super duper extremely strong, the water doesn't slow it down like you think it would, or they possess some kind of strange locomotion where they can move
through water.
Yeah. Like not even there.
Where it doesn't resist them.
Right.
Which kind of makes sense to me. If they can walk into the trees and disappear.
Right.
One, people often have asked me, so don't you think that they just go through a portal? I'm like, yeah, but there's not portals everywhere.
Right.
And in both of our stories, they just went into the trees that were just right there, and they disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
It would seem that they have the ability to disappear regardless of where they are.
Right.
For some reason, they waited till they were in the trees, maybe to disguise their disappearance a little bit, but because we would say, oh, maybe it just, I don't know, just kind of got hidden by the trees or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they disappear right in front of you, that's a different story. And so,
did you ever hear Matt Johnson's encounter?
Yeah.
Matt Johnson.
Yeah.
I was at the first Georgia Bigfoot conference. I think it was in 2012 or 2013. Alex Tomas put it on over in Dahlonega, Georgia. And at the time, I'd heard of Matt Johnson, but I was an investigator with the BFR in the Florida chapter. And my wife and I were so happy to come to this. Man, Jesus, what was his name? Nelson was there. Scott Nelson, the linguist, he was there. Christopher Noel was there.
Yeah.
They managed to get some really good speakers in there. And Jim Vieira was there from ancient civilizations and their leftovers here in the United States, ancient crazy buildings. And but there's this big guy in the audience sitting just behind me a little bit, and I look over and I go, Jesus, I think that's Matt Johnson from Oregon,
because he's like 6'9" or something.
You can't miss
really
the guy.
Tall.
He's big.
Yeah.
So I messaged my friend Scott Taylor, who's an investigator in Washington. I might be in Oregon, but I messaged him because I met him on an expedition about a year before that. And I said, guess what? Matt Johnson's here. He says, I'm the original investigator. I'm the guy that took his report. Tell him did I tell you this already? Tell him to tell you what really happened. I was like, what?
I've heard this in a rumor, but I've never actually heard the story.
So his official story, he saw it walk between two trees while I was using the trees in the bathroom. That's what I thought had happened.
And his wife and daughters were down the trail a little ways, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was with his wife, his ex-wife, which is ex-wife now, but he was with his wife at the time. So I told him who it was. I said, hey, Scott Taylor's a friend of mine. I met him on expedition. He said and he was real jovial as I'm talking. He's a big guy, real big smiley guy, big voice, cheerful guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Scott Taylor said for me to ask you what actually happened. Like, I have no idea what I'm walking into, right? He just said, ask. And all of a sudden, Johnson's whole demeanor changed. And he started to tear up because he's thinking about it. I'm like, what in the world? Are you sure I haven't told you this before?
No.
I'll keep it short. But it's so profound because it helped change my course. Because I had the guy stand. It wasn't something like I didn't talk to. We talked to guys.
Sure. It was firsthand.
Right. But when you're in a public place and this man is telling you something in a public place, well, so he starts to get all emotional. His wife starts to rub his back, and I'm thinking, what in the world?
What's he about to say? Yeah.
What's he about to say, right? Is he about to reveal something terrifying his family? Or I don't know what. But I saw it change. And he says, he told me what happened up to that point, which was all pretty much the same. He heard popping and everything. And he said, and I think he told me before it actually came out, before he came out publicly and said what actually happened. He said, as I'm up there using the film, I don't remember if he was doing one or two, if he was squat or standing, I can't remember if he even told me. But he says, I see this, I can see my family down there. I'm looking at my family down there. I'm going to the bathroom, and I see this movement on the peripheral vision. And he says, I look over, and he says, what I see is, it looks like the surface of the road. You know how it does that? The heat on the surface of the road it's
like a mirage kind of thing.
Like a mirage. And it's doing this, and all of a sudden, where that mirage was, there is a gigantic, hairy man looking at my family. And he says, I can see it. It's actually looking at my family that doesn't know I'm up there yet. He says, my immediate response was like that. I went, oh, and it looked at me. Now it sees me because I made a sound. And then he said, it made a face like this. He said, it made a face like, oh shit, he can see me. Then looked back at the family, and then without moving, it's other than his head looking, he said, it just did this mirage thing and it was gone.
Oh, wow.
And he says, and now he's telling me this, and he's still trying to catch his breath because he's reliving the fear, not just the fear of seeing this thing, but the fear that he's reliving that his whole life, everything he's ever learned has just been turned upside down. It's a twofold thing. Not only am I seeing something that's not supposed to be real, it's doing something that's impossible, that no one ever, and he's a smart guy. He's a child
psychologist. Yeah.
And that, he said, after that, I knew I couldn't tell anybody, because, and I think that goes for a lot of stories, that they'll tell you a story if they saw it, that's believable, but the real meat, the meat that makes us go, oh, wow, they withhold to themselves. And that was one of those moments that turned me. Not only was a story about how emotional this big man became in front of me, and it had a profound impact on me. And it wasn't in the dark. It wasn't way over there. He didn't see it with binoculars. It wasn't in the twilight.
It was right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the stories that made me go, oh man, we might be dealing with something that we may never understand.
Well, it's a lot of people to say are mistaken identity. Oh, you saw a bear, because there are so many people that you and I have met who have watched one disappear in front of their eyes. I have two friends that have seen it firsthand. My only daytime one, it was there. I was fishing. A fish grabbed my fly. It was up above me on a rock. I looked at the fly and I looked back and it was gone. I mean, 2 seconds, maybe, like looking at it, turn, look at the fish, look, and he's gone. I mean, it's not like he's crouched and he's running, or he was just gone. Right. And so I'm like, where did it go? And so I didn't physically watch it disappear, but there was no other solution for where it went. And so these kinds of stories, and I've heard that Moneymaker is changing his opinion about this because he's heard these stories too all these years.
Right. If you're hearing him, I'm hearing him. He's got to be hearing them. Yeah. Yeah.
But he excluded them from his database, and so I'll know he's changed his mind when he puts those back in his database.
Right.
All those stories. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, how can you do this, what we're doing for very long and not hear somebody say it like your witness walked into the trees and gone. And so I don't know how they do it. I mean, you've probably wondered the same thing. Do they change their frequency to, I don't know. I mean, it's fascinating to me because I am convinced that one, here's the questions that come to mind. If they can do this, can they just appear then wherever they want, whenever they want? Which means I could have one in my office here right now. You could have one in your house.
Yeah.
Sibylla's had footprints on the carpet inside her house. It's like, I don't think it came through the front door. I think it just came in, and so, yeah, I mean, it's, and scientists will say, well, that's impossible. Okay. With the science you understand today, that is impossible. What about 10 years from now?
Right. That's such an important point that you just made, that I think a lot of Bigfoot researchers that have been doing this, that don't get in front of as many witnesses that you and I are very blessed to get in front of.
Yeah.
It's a gift. It's a gift that you and I have been given this opportunity to talk to so many people, that our brains working a little differently than most Bigfoot researchers, because we have so much more data input.
Yes.
And I think that the connection that a lot of researchers don't make, that is one of the most important connections to make in going this, is that the reason we can't understand what Bigfoot is and how it does the things that they do is because we've been denied a lot of knowledge in our growing up. As we've grown up, if we've gone to school, I'm not pointing my fingers at teachers per se, but at the system.
The system.
The system that's really keeping us really down, man. It's keeping us very uninformed as to if these things, when they do what they do, they don't have there's no buttons or switches. It's like whatever they're doing, and in their stories of they defecate on themselves, they eat roadkill. So as human-like as these things are reported to be, they still a lot of primitive animalistic attributes to them.
Yeah.
How can they do these things? Disappear, have glowing eyes, have mind speak. We've heard all of that. I don't dismiss that anymore. And at the same time, be such a primitive people. Either these things are nearly as primitive as we think they are, but they have those attributes, or we do not understand how the natural world is really working, which in my opinion makes damn near everything we've been taught a lie.
Yeah.
Everything we've been taught about America, everything we've been taught about the human history of humans on this planet, the demise of the dinosaurs, the flood, and everything. There was nothing before that. I think there was plenty of things before that. I think a lot of the things that we've been taught growing up as kids, most of it's a fabrication. And I think that's the part that really hits me the hardest, that I'm relearning all these things. I'm so hungry to talk to witnesses because I'm relearning, I'm re-educating myself. Once you understand that in order for these Bigfoots and Dogman to be real, almost everything that we've been taught is wrong, has to be wrong. And I figured that out when I was 12 years old, when I was in school, not because I was smart, because when I was in school, it happened to be the exact same time they were teaching me about the theory of evolution and caveman, and humans have only been around for 20,000 years, modern humans. Yeah, here we have all these giant, not gorillas, giant gorilla things, families of them moving around in Florida, where 3 sides of Florida is surrounded by the ocean, right? And my young brain knew right there, these things can't be real, and my teachers were teaching me can be fact. Something's wrong here.
Something doesn't compute there.
Hey, boy, that's the truth.
It's incomplete. I think they've been teaching what they understood, but their knowledge is incomplete.
Right.
In terms of what's available. But you're right. If these are true, and we know they are, then so much of our science is like elementary school.
Right.
and we haven't even gotten into high school, let alone college. And
Right.
and so, what are we going to discover, or will they ever
Right.
reveal to us what they know?
Yeah. Have you ever
about
heard me
the
say that?
universe?
I wonder if somebody grabbed you and took you to a room, some alphabet society, CIA, FBI, NSA, whatever, took you in a room and said, "Oh, you want to know, Jim, what these things are? Well, we're going to show you." And they spent the whole day explaining to you what these things are, where they came from, who their cousins are, the Bigfoot and Dogman and the Mothman. They actually come from different realities. They can come and go, but we have no way of stopping them. We
No.
can track them down a little bit. We have no control over them. And if humanity knew, they'd freak out. Nobody would want to go to work. They'd all want to huddle in their homes, and nothing would get done. So we have to keep this stuff quiet. So, anyways, here it all is. And Jim, here's the door. Nice talking to you. And you go out into the world. Who in the hell are you going to tell?
Nobody would believe you.
Nobody. You'd be ostracized. Here you have you are burdened with this gigantic truth that no one's going to want to hear, man. And I think, it's just so funny because your friends, your family would think you were nuts, even though, hey, I got the truth.
They already do, but
right. Me too.
But yeah, Bigfoot's one thing. All right. Bigfoot is one level of nutcase.
Right.
But then you start talking about dimensions and disappearing and appearing and
right.
And yeah, they do act like gorillas a lot. The sounds they make, woo, woo. It's like, okay, you're a highly intelligent being. Why are you behaving like that?
Right.
Why are you screaming at people and growling and charging? And you're like, they must know when they're doing that. Okay, I'm going to make this guy think I'm a really big ape.
Right.
I'm just going to rush him.
How fast?
What else can they be thinking? Because we know they talk to people, and I would love to get in on that frequency.
Yeah.
Maybe I would. I mean, some people say I would rather not hear them like I'm hearing them because it's intrusive. It just kind of comes in and you're like, oh, go away. I don't want to hear this. But when they're speaking, when they're sending pictures or whatever, it's not apes. This is highly intelligent.
Right.
So why do they have these two behaviors that are so apparently contradictory? It's just, that's why when people, when you're out in the woods and you hear knocks or you hear whoops, some of the people that you're with are going to say, yeah, listen, that sounds just like a gorilla. And I can't say no, because it does.
Right.
But they're not a gorilla. By any stretch, they're not a gorilla.
Right.
So it's this bizarre world we live in, Dave. And you're right. We're fortunate our occupation brings people to us, filters the whole population out, and brings people to us who have stories to tell.
Right.
Researchers don't get that. I mean, they'll get people that write them because they know that, but not the numbers that we get coming into our places. Yep. I had a question in the last section you were just talking about, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It's my daughter's asking me to send her the video of that big noise. I think she wants to watch it again, but I'll get it to her when we're done here. But I can't think of what it was. This happens too often, Dave.
Me too, buddy.
I have a thought and then it's gone.
10 times a day with me.
10 times a day.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've had long distance sights. I've seen their eyes at night, fairly close.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had a close up daytime. Have you had a significant personal encounter close up?
Yeah, but it was at night. Now my wife and I were watching through a thermal, and people asked me if I was scared. It's funny when you're just looking at their heat signature, that fear doesn't hit you. I feel bad for people that were never looking for these things with real fragile egos. If they see these things in the daytime, and see the facial features, And they say, you don't understand, man. You try to close your eyes and go to sleep at night. That's all you can see. It haunts you forever and ever and ever too. And he says, whenever they think about it, they feel the fear they did day one. It starts to wane off a little bit, but they said, once you see one, you'll never forget it. And I'm not really sure that I want to see one up close in the daylight because I'm just as human as everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And nightmares follow people sometimes for months or years.
Yeah. God, there was a guy in, where was he? Was he in Georgia? That had a terrifying encounter? Another investigator told me about him. And it upset him so bad that for a year, when he went to bed at night, he'd stack furniture against his door so that this thing couldn't get in his house. I mean, could you imagine every night for a year, you stack furniture up against the door so it can't get into your house? And I've talked to people that these things were turning their doorknobs and tapping on their window. People think they're way up now, man. They come right to your house, either tap on the windows or they're pounding on your wall. Why in the world do they do? Why do they try to wake you up if they're trying? I have no idea what they do. They have a sense of humor? I guess they could have a sense of humor.
They must think it's funny. But if they wanted to come in, they would be in.
Yep. They know how to turn the doorknob.
What's to stop them? All they'd have to do is go like this, bam, and just knock the door down. Yep. So nothing is stopping them, let alone a tent.
Right.
Why do they respect this little nylon boundary between us and them? But they seem to respect it. And so they won't come into your camp until you're all in your tents. And I've had them, the moment we're in our tents, they start running around the camp. And I'm like, you guys didn't even hesitate. And at first I thought, no, I can't be. I must be imagining things. No, everybody heard them running around the camp. And so it's like, but they waited till we were in the tents.
Right.
We couldn't. Maybe they figured if they start running, we're going to get the light out, and I tried. I heard them behind my tent, unzipped the tent, looked over, shined the light, and there was nothing there. I'm like, I don't get this. I don't get it because I can hear them. I know they're there, and yet there's nothing in the beam.
How many times have you heard that from other people as well? The same thing. I could hear it and I could smell it. It was so close I could smell it, and it sounded like it was right there, but I can't see it. Yeah.
So how is that possible? It's just so much about them. And people say, when he looked at me in the eyes, I'm looking at a person with intelligence. They said I could see in their face. Sibylla interviewed a guy in Mississippi who was out hunting, and he was along a power line opening, and because often deer and elk will come out where you can shoot them in that space. And he said this thing steps out, and they had this interaction. I don't know if you've seen this interview, but he said he saw it. It saw him. It's like 100 yards away. He looks down. He pulls back his breech, racks another one in, looks up, and it's 30 yards away from him. He said, I don't know what happened, how it moved that fast, but it was like 100 yards away. I look down, I look up, and he's right there. And he said, every time he would raise his rifle, he said, the Bigfoot's looking straight at him. It would go like this. Like, it would turn its face like this, like, you're not going to shoot me. You're not going to shoot me. And yet it didn't run. It just stood there, but it would just turn away every time he would point it at it. And he said, I couldn't shoot it. It's like shooting a man. And so eventually it moved away and he could get out of the tree stand. But even then, do you hunt? I'm not sure if you're a hunter or not.
No, I used to.
No?
I just don't hunt anymore.
Okay. Did you ever hunt in the tree stand when you were hunting?
No, I was always on the ground.
Okay. Because when you're up in a tree stand and it gets dark and you climb down and you start hiking back, that, especially if you've just seen a Bigfoot. You're like looking around. I wouldn't wait till dark for one. I'm going to get out of that tree stand while I can still see something and get the hell out of there. But it's just this highly intelligent, looking away, knowing exactly what it is you're pointing at it. Why turn away if you're just pointing a stick?
Right.
It knows what that thing is, and it knows you could shoot it if you wanted to, and it just turns away like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And so there's so many stories like that we can't comprehend. Our science just is incomplete, Dave. I mean,
Right.
I don't know when or if we're ever going to get to a point where we could say, yeah, this is how they dematerialize.
Right.
It's so far beyond our science now.
It's only guys like you and a handful of other guys and gals that are having these conversations, because I get invited to Bigfoot conferences, and I want to go. Sometimes I want to go for the camaraderie.
Sure.
I realize that there's not going to be any information there. Most of the people, not all of them, but most of the people putting on these Bigfoot conventions they're part of an event coordinating company. They're there to generate income. They don't really care about who's real, who's not, who has good. All they want is a big name that's on a TV show that'll draw. It's just a money making thing.
Exactly.
And I know they have to make money. I understand they got to pay for the flights and the hotel rooms and all that. I understand all that, but it just seems to me there's so many conventions now that are short on data and information and very long on TV personalities and autograph grabbers. And that's where it all goes sideways for me. And I wish there was more. I wish there was more places to go where you and I could be with guys and gals that we could have real conversations with, because it's like I was talking to my wife this morning, and I said, it's like there's this information flow. Let's say it's a river, and there's Bigfoot and Dogman and Mothman. It's all these UFOs. It's cryptids in different states. And it's all flowing down this hill, raging down this hill. It's all information. And the Bigfoot phenomenon is gone off into an eddy. And eddies just spin around and around and around. And if you get into that Bigfoot eddy over here off the side of the information, you can spend your whole life in that little eddy thinking you're in the river, but you're just in the little eddy. You forget there is even a river. Once you get back into that river and you realize there's a whole world here, that Bigfoot, it's part of this river of knowledge information, but people like that eddy. They like that just spinning around and around. And you see it. I don't need to tell you. You're just like, please get out of that eddy and get over here with us so we can talk to you. We like you. You're a smart person, but you got to stop chasing footprints. And and I don't know what else you're chasing. Chasing
apes.
Yeah, you're chasing apes. Really? Come on. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure this has happened to you. You get invited to a conference. I have to be careful how I say this, but you get invited to a conference, you go and you find out the other speakers, and just like what you just said, you think, okay, so the people who are coming to this conference who don't know anything are going to put us all together. They're going to listen to everybody, and they're going to think we're all of the same perspective, but we're not. And so, I look at the average conference I speak at, I look at the speaking list and I think, okay, say there's 8 speakers. I think there's one guy there that I can probably talk to, maybe 2. And so I just gravitate towards them, and that's who I spend all my time with. But, and the others even though they're great people, but as soon as you sit down over dinner and start talking, their eyes kind of glaze over, and it's like, okay, this we're not going anywhere in this conversation. So let's just talk about footprints and hair on barbed wire and okay. And it's frustrating. Maybe we should organize a conference together, Dave, but I'm not sure who to invite. I mean, there's a limited number
right out of my mouth.
Who would you invite that if you wanted to do a conference of only like-minded people. And I'm not criticizing other people. They are where they are. We're all where we are. I'm grateful that we have the number of people coming to us because we get to hear their stories, and it's given us a different perspective. I don't criticize them or judge them. They just haven't had the input, I guess, that we've had.
Right.
And so, because way back, and you probably the same, way back, I decided I'm going to follow the evidence wherever it leads me.
Yeah.
Wherever it leads me. And it's led me some weird places. And many nights I've lied there thinking, people are going to think I'm nuts. They already do think I'm nuts, but this is way out there.
Right.
And I'm like, when I talk to people about Bigfoot, like you said, you gauge kind of where they are, and I can limit my conversation to an ape conversation.
Right.
Or I can go way, Bigfoot 101 versus graduate level degree.
Right.
And again, it's not because of my intelligence. It's just because of what I've been exposed to. That's it.
Right.
So, but there's not that many people that I can. Dave Politis is one that he and I talk a lot about these kinds of things. I think Steve Isdall is probably there about a lot of things. They're both very busy guys. Hard to find time to get to,
of course,
talk with them, etc. But
you just named the two top names for me as well.
Yeah, and again, it's because they get exposed to a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, look at the numbers of people that write Steve. I mean, thousands. And so he's heard all the stories. He didn't start there. Neither did Dave. Neither of them started, nor did we. But over time, you just can't say people are liars. I mean, tons and tons. And finally you think, okay, there's something to this. There's definitely something to this. But so that answers my question. We'll do a conference, you and me and Dave and Steve. If we could ever get the four of us together, it would be a miracle. But hey, it'd be worth a try because people will. Just the four of us, just to talk.
Boy,
just to talk like this.
I need it sometimes. I need some guys to talk to because it bounces. They tell me things like, "Oh, I've never heard that before," because you're not afraid to tell me. I could be talking to a researcher from wherever, and he won't tell me because he's afraid of what I might think of him. Like that's the stuff I want to know.
Or you're going to steal his stuff. You're going to steal his data.
Yeah.
And so we're all kind of huddled in our little silos. Like, okay, I'm going to give you this little bit, but I'm not going to tell you everything because if I tell you everything, you're going to take my stuff. I'm like, I have no interest in taking you. I got more stuff than I can deal with right now.
Exactly. That's a fact.
So, it's a strange world. It's a strange world. And yet the majority of the world looks at anything that we're looking at and they're like, okay, well, go off in your little la la land and talk about your funny imaginary creatures. And what can you say? I mean, there's nothing I'm never going to prove something to you that somebody said, I can't remember who it was. Meldrum, maybe, even though he and I disagree on a lot, he makes a statement. People say it can't be true, therefore it isn't true. Bigfoot can't exist, therefore they don't exist.
Right. Is that something? Yep.
Where do you go with that? Where do you go with skeptics? Do you try to tell them things to change their minds? I mean, how do you handle that?
Not anymore. Yep. I just literally, I stop. I figure I'm 62. I'm not going to waste one more minute of my life or one more breath talking to skeptics. And I don't mean arguing with them. I just, if that's where you want to be, that you go there.
Sure.
But I can't expel that much energy anymore. I've got too many projects going on, and I just walk away because I've tried to. I remember what it's like in the past, and no matter what you say, well, it could have been a guy in a suit. You're not going to get anywhere with this guy.
No.
Patty is a guy in a suit. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever.
How come we don't have any video? What, have you not heard of the Patterson Gimlin film? That was proven to be a guy in a suit.
Yeah, we proved that was a hoax a long time ago. Really?
Right.
Okay, then I guess you proved it.
Yeah, you win.
Hey, what
Bye.
month? Yeah. What month? What's your birth date?
December of 61. December 9th.
December 61. Okay, I'm October 62. So we're almost the same age. We're a little under a year apart. I didn't realize that. So you're just a little bit my elder, which is why you know so much more than I do. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story about this? God, what was it? The guy? Was it the guy? Oh, about the guy who his daughter-in-law got a hold of me. She lives. I think he either lives now or used to live in a place called Cochran, Georgia. And this is maybe my fifth or sixth report I did after I moved to Georgia.
Okay. And
he was driving over a bridge. They sent me the map where exactly the bridge is still there. And it was not nighttime, it was daytime or in the evening, but it was still light out. And he says, I'm crossing this little bridge in Cochran, Georgia. That's like I said, 1985. That's important later on in the story. And he says, this thing comes over the bridge and I have nowhere to go. There's a lane over here. And I try to swerve to miss it, but it still continues to walk. He says it's about 5.5 feet tall, got dog legs. It's got little arms hanging out in front of it like this.
Oh, interesting.
It's got a canine head.
Okay.
Walks into the middle of the road, and I have nowhere to go. And I hit this thing full on
my gosh.
the car. And it flies off the bridge. And it was like a creek down there. So it wasn't like a high bridge. It falls down towards this creek, but ends up on the bank. So I get out of my car. My car is damaged, but it's still drivable. I get down and I can see it. I get down to the ground. I'm looking at this thing. And some of the neighbors from the farmers, they come out. They heard lock my brakes up, heard me hit something. And we're all looking at this thing on the bank of the bridge. It's like 5 foot tall. It's a wolf thing walking on two legs. And he says, I don't know how it could walk on four because the legs it had short little legs, like a kangaroo in front of it and a snout. And these are simple farm folks. I know a lot of them that live up here. Mm-hmm. If you ever had a problem, they'd help you. These are good people. At the time, nobody had they didn't have phones and the cameras. That's why the year was important. Nobody had a camera handy. So they're all looking at this thing, and they're all looking at this thing, and he is dead. He goes home and calls wasn't far drive. He goes home and calls the state game commission, the local game warden, and he knows him because he's a hunter. Gives me the guy's name. He gets a call the next day. Yeah, we found it. We don't know what it was, but we sent it off to try to get somebody to tell us what this animal is. And he never heard another thing from this guy. And I think I put the story out to people. Why didn't he get a picture? Look, chum. They didn't have pictures, and most people, and he could overhear the people talking while they were looking at it. That's what's been killing my chickens. That's what got my 2 goats. I lost 3 pigs, and they're all talking about all the livestock that had been missing recently in the area while they're looking at this thing. This was just a simple. I'm still in contact with his daughter. She's a real sweetheart.
And why would a simple farmer like that make up a story so outlandish that anybody who hears it would say, "You're nuts, man. You're just totally nuts."
Yeah, and of course I found, like, he gave me the name of he remembers the name of the guy. I look him up and the game warden was in Georgia. He retired. I found the year he retired. He was married. His wife passed before he did, and they didn't have any kids. So if they had kids, I could have probably extracted more from it because I'm sure he would have said something to his kids about it. But the story died right there. Unfortunately, I couldn't get any more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little dog man-like creature, 5.5 feet tall or so, on 2 legs, dog legs, and
he killed it. He actually killed it.
They actually killed it. Yeah, it was dead.
Wow.
And the game warden verified it. But he said, we came and got the body, and we sent it off. We don't know what it is, but if we find out, we'll let you know. And he never got called back.
Man, okay, if this was you and you hit and killed the dog man, what would you do?
Wow. Knowing what I know now, I love my family too much to put me and my family through it. And you and I both know if you can think ahead of it, and they came and got the body, you called them up, they came and got the body, you said you were going to tell people, they said don't tell anybody, because we can put stuff in your house that'll embarrass you.
Would you? Yeah, but would you consider getting the body yourself and not calling them immediately?
Man, I don't know. It would probably depends on the moment. I do know that would bring me nothing but grief.
Yeah.
It would bring me nothing but grief. 90% of the people I told or even showed pictures of, they say it was fake. People are fragile. I just don't know if we could, other than if you marched a live one out in front of it, it was moving and you could see it articulated. Then they believe. But a photograph of a body in a freezer, I just don't know if that's. I just really think it would ruin your life. They would ruin your life.
I hadn't thought about that. Because I thought if I were to find a dead Bigfoot or Dogman, as soon as you tell the authorities, your life has changed forever.
Exactly.
They're going to come get it. But what if you didn't tell them immediately? What if you called? If I called you and Dave and a few other people, say, "Hey, can you get to Colorado on the next flight? You got to see this.
Right.
Let's check it out. Let's learn as much as we can about it, because eventually we're going to have to give up the information."
Right.
But if we did that, whenever we did give up the information, they're going to know it didn't die yesterday. So like, what have you been doing with this thing all this time?
Right.
Who have you told? I mean, it just, yeah.
I think the smartest thing to do would be to take the onus off of you. Say if you found a dead one, call every news organization, take them there, let them take pictures of it.
Yeah.
And then send them off and let them take the heat for it. And you're like, of course, because the minute you start making money on this thing, then you're a faker, you're a hoaxer, you're just trying to make money. You can forget about trying to make any money on it.
Yeah.
The best thing you do is just get every newspaper person to come out to look at it, take pictures, and let them deal with it.
Yeah. Let them take the heat. Well,
yeah.
And if you wait too long, if you leave it there in the woods, other Bigfoot are going to come and take that body. There's no way they're going to leave that thing there.
Right.
So you're very limited on the time you've got. And doesn't work that fast usually, where you call the Denver Post or whatever and say, "Hey, send somebody out here." Yeah. Tomorrow, maybe. It's like, no, you don't understand. If you don't get out here right now, this thing's not going to be here tomorrow.
Right.
So
about all you could do is take pictures of it.
Take pictures.
Yeah.
And then people will say, "That's a great fake."
Yeah.
Here's a funny story. Rick Dyer, I know you know who Rick is.
Uh-huh.
You remember his second hoax? He built this Bigfoot and he put it in the trailer and he took it around showing people. Twice now, I've had a guy call me up, write me, offering me that Bigfoot. I know, as soon as I see it, I know what it is. And he wants 10 grand for it. And I'm like, no, you could sell, even if you offer to me for $500, for $100, I'm not going to take it because of what that represents. Right. It represents people trying to hoax other people. I'm not interested.
Right.
Twice now. I don't know if he forgot. He contacted me the first time, but I'm like, I'm not interested, bro.
Right.
Just go sell it. And the fact that he's come twice in a period of about a year, nobody else wants it either.
Right.
I'm sure he's tried to sell it to other people. He hasn't tried selling it to you?
No, it's the first I heard of it. But I would be just like you. Get that thing away from me.
Yeah.
Right.
This is one of the biggest hoaxes ever. I am not interested, because then people are going to say, yeah, that's one hoax. What other hoaxes have you got in the museum? I'm like,
and you'd be associated with it forever.
Yeah. So no, exactly. I told them no way. So, wow. I'm going to talk to, I have to call Dave today anyway. I'm going to talk to him and say, what would it take for you and Dave Bakara and I and Steve Istall to all get together in one place? Mm-hmm. Not for a conference necessarily, just let's go away for somewhere for a couple of days and just talk and figure stuff out. And
Right.
That would be awesome. That I would make time to do that for sure.
So would I, my friend. I guarantee you.
Well, listen, this is always fun for me, and I told you this before. You're in my top 3 probably of guests I've had on my show, just because I love the way you think. I love the way you're thinking through all of this, and thank you for taking time to help me out today and be on the show.
And I love talking to you, but anytime you call me, because you're probably it might be my top one. I don't get that. I talked to Dave Pilates the other night. I don't get to talk to Ishtal because he's just a busy man. Mm-hmm. But you're my top 2 people to talk to.
Well, I appreciate that.
Talking to me anytime.
And next time I call, it's not going to be on the podcast. We're just going to talk. So,
all right, brother.
And if I make my way that direction, I've got family in Alabama, and it's not that far to get over to Cherry Log. So, okay. I would love to come see you. That would be awesome.
That'd be nice.
Well, and I will get back with you on that. I'm gonna talk to Dave today and see if it's something he would even consider. But
I'll fly wherever you guys want to have me. I don't care.
Me too. Nope. Thank you, Dave. Very much appreciate it, and appreciate your friendship.
You're welcome, my friend. You have a good camping trip.
We will. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Well, another great talk with Dave. It's not really an interview, just a conversation between friends. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope maybe it sparked your thoughts about some of these things. But until we meet next time, keep on squatching.